Welcome to Coding Deft. In this video, we will see how to work with checkboxes in React. First, let us initialize a React project using the command npx create React app. We will wait for the installation to complete. Now the installation is complete. I will navigate to the project folder and I will open it in VS Code. So this has opened up. I'll delete the files which are not needed for this project. So I'll delete this test file, logo, everything. And I will clean up this app.js file as well. I'll remove the CSS as well from here, and I'll remove this report web vitals imports. Now in app.js, let us create a checkbox here. So input checkbox. I need to provide an ID as well so that I can give the label, and when clicked on the label, the checkbox will be checked. So I'll give the ID as checkbox and I'll have a label also. I'll use this HTML4 tag so that it can bind with this input checkbox, and I'll give the label as I agree with the terms and conditions. So this is a simple checkbox. Let us run the application and see if it comes up or not. So as you can see, the checkbox has come up. I am able to check it and uncheck it. So let us bind this to a state. So I'll create a use state. Since the checkbox will take a Boolean values, so our state will also be Boolean. So I have imported use state and I will use it here as I'll call it as is checked. By default, it will not be checked, so I'll keep it as false. So I can give the value here as is checked, and on change I will call a function. I'll name it as on handle change. So I'll define this function. So what we need to do is, so whenever user clicks on this, we need to toggle the state. So if it is false, we have to make it true, and if it is true, we will make it as false. So what I'll do is I'll just call set checked as not of is checked. This will handle the toggling for me. So I'll just refresh this and I'll click and it's checked, and if I uncheck it is unchecked. So I can just console log this to see whether the value is getting set properly or not. So as you can see, when I check it, it is true, and when I uncheck it is false. So the value is getting set properly. So this is how we can handle the basic checkbox. So this example you have seen here is a controlled way of controlling inputs in React using use state. We can have uncontrolled checkbox also. So this will be handled using use ref. With the use ref, we will not have this use state hook. Instead, have use ref hook. So I'll say checkbox ref is equal to use ref of null. Initially, it will not point to anything, and this ref we can give as a reference to the checkbox. We will remove this value. Instead of value, we will give default value, that is what should be the state of the checkbox when it loads. So default checked is false, and we'll have to remove the on change handler as well. One thing with uncontrolled inputs in React is we cannot access the value whenever user clicks on it or unchecks it. We will be able to access the value when something like form submit happens. So let us wrap this inside a form submit. So let us wrap this input within a form, and I will add a submit button as well. Button type as submit. Now if I click on submit, it will submit the form. It will reload the page, but we don't want the reload to happen. So we will have a form handler here. So on submit, I will call form submit handler. So I need to define this form submit handler. So the parameter I'll get here as the prop to form submit handle receive form submit event. So what I'll do is I'll call e.prevent default so that it doesn't redirect whenever the form is submitted. So I can refresh the page and click on submit. Nothing is happening. Since we have the checkbox reference here, we can access the value of the checkbox. So I'll just alert the state of the checkbox is. So I can access the value of the checkbox using checkbox ref.current.checked. So if it is checked, I will print it as checked, otherwise as unchecked. So let me see if it works fine. So if I click on submit, it says unchecked, and if I check and submit, it says checked. So those are the two ways we can implement checkboxes in React. We can use this checkbox as a reusable component. Now I have reverted my code to controlled inputs. So what I'll do is I'll export this to a separate component. For the sake of simplicity, I will write the component in this file itself. So const checkbox. I'll pass three props to it. One is checked, and the next is a label, and one more is a check handler. So we will be maintaining the state of the checkbox outside of this component, and we'll be passing whether it is checked or not to it, as well as the label. So I'll just copy paste this code here, and I'll just change this on handle change to check handler. So I can reuse it here and import it here, and let me pass the props. Is checked equal to is checked. Label I can pass the label here. I'll cut it here and paste it here, and I'll print the label here. The next thing we have to pass is the check handler. So the check handler is on handle change. So we refactor the code. Let us see whether it works fine or not. So let me refresh it. It is not coming up. So let me see what is the issue. Okay, the issue is we are not returning anything here. So let us return this, and let me reload this. Yes, we are able to render the checkbox here. So the next thing we will do is we will have multiple checkboxes and see how we can reuse this component. So the next example we'll go for is say you have a site where we can order pizza, and we want to select different toppings which we want. So we will have multiple toppings options. So we will see how we can implement multiple checkboxes in React. So first I'll write all these toppings. So I've written all the toppings here. You can pause the video and note it down. What I'll do is for all these toppings, I need to generate a checkbox. So I'll have a wrapping div here, and I'll map through the toppings. As a second parameter of the map function, I'll get the index of the topping as well, and I'll return a checkbox here. And this topping will have a name as well as whether it is checked by default or not. I'll pass the name as the label here. The next thing is this onChange handler will not work because it has only one state. So we need to have an array of states for each topping. So I will initialize the state here. So I'll call it as toppings, and I'll initialize it all toppings. And one thing to note here, since we are storing it in a state, we'll pass this all toppings here, and we need to set the toppings whenever we change it here. So since we need the reference to the index to update this state, so what we'll do is to this onChange handler, we will pass the index as well. So the logic here is similar. All we need to do is whenever this checkbox is clicked with for a selected index, we need to toggle the state of that index. So before that, let us see whether the checkbox are rendered or not. So as you can see, the checkboxes are rendered in the UI. We can call the set toppings function here. So what we'll do is we will map through the existing toppings and find this index. And for if the index is matching for that particular index, we will toggle the state. So toppings.map, I'll call it topping, comma index. Since we already have index here, I'll call it as current index. If current index is same as that of index, then I need to to toggle the state. So I'll spread the existing topping details, and for the checked one, I'll just toggle the checked inside that topping. Otherwise, I'll just return the topping itself without updating it. So to summarize, what will happen is whenever a checkbox say uh, tomato is selected, the index will be 2. So it will match with the index. If it will loop through the toppings, if the current topping is if the current index is matching with tomato, then it will toggle that state. So we need to change this each check to this particular topping state. So we already have your topping here, so we need to pass topping dot checked, and we can remove this redundant use state here. And let me refresh the page, and let me check. Okay, there seems to be some issue with the code. So what I'll do is I'll print the index and see. So if I click on checked, index is always going as 0. Let me see why it is so. Okay, I figured out why it is going as 0, because for all the checkboxes we have given the ID as checkbox. So we need to give a unique ID to it. So what we'll do is we'll pass the index as well here, and this index we will append it to the ID. And I need to update this HTML4 as well. So now let me refresh and check. So if I check onion is only getting checked, not the golden corn. Yeah, this seems to be working fine. So to verify, let us just display the JSON and see what we are getting. So I'll use this pre tag to pretty print the JSON. So JSON.stringify toppings null comma 2. This syntax will print the JSON prettily. So as you can see, all the checked are false now. If I select mushroom, you can see the mushroom being changed to true, and black olives, yeah, it is getting changed. So the next thing we want to do is we need to have two buttons whether we can select all and deselect all. This is the use case you will see in most of the application. So let us go ahead and implement that as well. So what I'll do is I'll add two buttons, one as select all and another as unselect all. And I'll bind with the onClick function here, select all, unselect all. Let me define these functions. Select all will be, it is the same syntax, set toppings only. The only thing is we need not to check for index. Whatever comes, we need to check it as true. So no need to check for index. Just return this, and we will define unselect all as well. This is just the same function. We just need to pass the checked as false. So if I select all now and unselect all, you can see the state is getting updated, but the checkboxes are not getting checked or unchecked. The issue here is instead of passing as value, we should pass it as checked. For checkbox and radio buttons, it is checked, and for input text and other things, it is value. So that was the error in the code. So let me click on unselect all, it is getting unselected. Let me click on select all, it is getting selected. So I can play with it and select a few and unselect a few and click on select all, it is working fine. So that is how you work with the checkboxes in React. Hope you enjoyed the video. Do subscribe to the channel. Until we see you next time. Bye bye.